Have you ever been shocked when someone has a dramatic change apparently to their character? Maybe they have always had long hair, now they've got short hair, or maybe their hair used to be brown and now it's green. But any substantial change to what appears to be their character or personality is a huge shock to us. Well, now we're in an era when what we now know about neuroplasticity of the brain means that we can make substantial changes to the learning abilities, to the limitations of people. And that's huge. And what I'm observing increasingly is that teachers and parents around children, particularly who witness these changes, can't believe it's happening. In fact, they're not sure it's going to last, and so on and so on. And all that's completely understandable. We were doing a big research study in a school, which was a blind study, which meant the teachers didn't know which children were going through the study. And as a result, a 9-year-old girl who used to write just 3 lines and could hardly read, suddenly that was transformed. Her eye tracking had been changed, and now those things that were hard were now easier for us. So one day she turned up not just with 3 lines, but with 3 pages. And the teacher couldn't believe that this was her work, so was cross-examining her. Now, tell me, I don't mind, did your mummy help you with this? No, it's me. And after a while, the teacher's inability to believe this, remember, she didn't know what program she was going through, led to the girl rushing out of the classroom in tears. And the head teacher, fortunately, found her and had to go and explain to the teacher, look, this is what's happening, get used to it, and save the day. Otherwise, the girl could really have been traumatized. But it meant the blind study was no longer blind because those changes were so dramatic, they were remarkable. So if you're a teacher and you're witnessing a child going through the program or involved with the study, please be prepared for that, and please believe that it is now possible to get rid of fundamental limitations. I know it's a new concept. It's a bit like we can get to the moon now and we couldn't a few decades ago. And we've now got penicillin and we didn't have that, and we can now speak on a mobile phone to somebody in a jungle somewhere, which we couldn't do a few decades ago. So these changes, I know they shock us, but when they happen, we've got to get used to it. So whether it's reading limitations that are transformed, and they're nothing to do with levels of intelligence, they're to do with eye tracking. It's a skill that simply had hit a glass ceiling, and when you create plasticity, you can break through that glass ceiling, develop the skill and get rid of the limitation. The same is actually true for anxiety. The things that are available today to deal with the fundamentals of anxiety are awesome. It's a huge paradigm shift, and those are hard to get used to. But we've got to get used to it, and we've got to be excited about the possibilities that this brings to those that struggle with it. So one war veteran that we worked with recently, within 3 weeks or so, the transformation was so big. His boss now tells me, this guy that previously couldn't take on any extra responsibilities, any change, was a nightmare. He just floundered at the thought of dealing with something extra. Now he's hungry for more, taking on more responsibilities, and fortunately his boss knew exactly what was happening, so he's gradually given him more and more responsibilities, and he's eating it, he's loving it. And when you change the cerebellum, the bit of the brain that is actually responsible for creating all of these new and exciting connections, the results are lasting. A woman I've just been working with recently, she's got to the point now where all sorts of issues that her husband used to have to deal with, she now deals with it. And that's a huge change for him to accept, because for a while he thought maybe she's having an affair or something, and no, it wasn't that. It was simply that the things that he had to do before, she now can, naturally, effortlessly. These are big changes. They're hard to get used to. And for us, in this current age, it's actually exciting, but it's also a bit scary, because we're talking about concepts that are changing that we thought would never change. Very exciting. The brain has got masses of potential. We do only use a tiny part of it. We use every part of the brain, but we only use a tiny part of the connections that could be made in the brain. Neuroplasticity now makes that possible. We're in a new era. Get used to that new era and enjoy all of the possibilities that it brings to us. All the best.